A very good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to this 70th edition of the Together for Education webinars brought to you by Notebook. Months ago, back in April last year, when the lockdown had just started, we decided to set up a series of webinars. By then, we had known that the lockdown would last perhaps a month or so. So we had expected we would do 5 or 10 webinars, in which the objective was to have teachers more used to online learning platforms. Schools had shut down, and all the learning had moved online. A lot of teachers were finding it difficult to adapt to new learning platforms like Zoom, Microsoft Teams, etc. And we said, let's have this series of webinars where teachers can join, share their thoughts. Today, when I welcome you to this 70th edition, it fills me with great pride and humility at the kind of support that all of you have shown to this event. And for that, we remain grateful. Yesterday was India's Republic Day. So today, we look at a very interesting proposition: democracy and education, the impact they have on each other, how these two entities interact. We have with us a stellar panel today. So before long, we would hear from them. We at Notebook are an edtech brand. Till date, we have served more than 2 million students with our short, crisp videos that are mapped to the CBSE curriculum. From classes 1 to 12, every topic of every subject is made into these engaging short videos that teachers can have access to during their online classes. When teachers are taking their classes, whether online or offline, they can play these videos as an introduction to the topic that will be taught. These videos help raise the curiosity level and engage the students better. Later, when the students have to study from home or revise a topic before an exam, they have access to the same videos on their personal devices, their smartphones, their laptops, or whatever they have access to. They can then use these videos to learn better. What I will do now is play you a short clip of one of the notebook videos. Democracy is a chapter from the class 9 syllabus of CBSE Political Science. CBSE has done a phenomenal job of augmenting a lot of their chapters with interesting stories from around the globe. This chapter stands out as a great example. The various elements of what makes a democracy are taught not just in the form of theory, but also in the form of case studies from things that are happening around the globe, particularly in failures of democracy. What I will play now is a short clip of the notebook video for the same chapter, and you would see how it is so perfectly mapped to the school curriculum.
The word democracy comes from the Greek word demos, which means people, and kratia, which means rule. Thus, democracy is a form of the government in which the rulers are elected by the people. So, a government of the people, for the people, and by the people is a democratic government. We see democracy in these countries: Chile after Pinochet's rule, Poland after the fall of the communist rule, Ghana in the early period of Nkrumah's rule. These countries, on the other hand, are not democratic. Can you identify them from their flags? Some countries have declared themselves to be democracies but do not follow the basic principles of a democracy. It is time to take such examples across the globe for a better understanding of the features of democracy. In a democratic country, the final decision-making power should rest with the elected representatives. However, this is not true in the case of Pakistan. In the year 1999, General Pervez Musharraf ended the democratic government by conducting a military coup. Later in 2002, he conducted a referendum and declared himself the president of Pakistan. This referendum was influenced by a lot of malpractices and wrongdoings. General Musharraf issued a legal framework order which completely changed the existing constitution of Pakistan. According to a new law, the president had the right to dismiss any national or provincial government. The National Security Council was to look over the entire working of the government. This council was formed by members of the Pakistani army loyal to Musharraf. This ultimately left the elected people with limited or no power. Everything was eventually controlled by Musharraf. Pakistan, thus, had a defeated democracy where the government was controlled by a single man, Pervez Musharraf. Though Pakistan declared itself as a democracy, it was, and in fact still is, largely controlled by the military.
Well, that was a short clip from one of the more than 10,000 videos that you have available on our website and apps that students and teachers can take help from. With that out of the way, it is now time to introduce our first speaker of the day. Our first speaker today is Achin Bhattacharya. Achin is the founder and CEO at Notebook. A chartered accountant by training, Achin was a director at Deloitte prior to starting Notebook. He has worked in India and abroad in various senior capacities in GE, PwC, KPMG, and Deloitte. He is a fellow of the ICAI and a member of CPA Australia. He is also the recipient of the prestigious Indian Achievers Award. Achin is an avid reader and a passionate traveler with keen interests in economics, history, literature, and philosophy. He is a regular speaker at various forums and chambers of commerce and also contributes articles to numerous publications regularly. He is also on the board of some of the most renowned corporates and contributes significantly to their brand strategies. Achin, over to you.
Good evening, everyone. Shubha, am I audible?
Loud and clear.
I once again welcome all of you to today's session on a topic which perhaps will be perpetually contemporary. As we celebrate our Republic Day, which without doubt is one of the greatest festivals of democracy on the face of the planet, one of the most important complementary terms that comes to my mind is education for all, so as to truly unleash the tremendous potential of the biggest democracy in the world. I remember once Thomas Jefferson wrote that we must educate and inform the whole mass of people. They're the only sure reliance for the preservation of our liberty. With education, the common man would be able to select leaders wisely and fight back against any injustice. He would be able to understand, maintain, and protect his rights so that he is always treated in a fair way. George Washington once explained, knowledge is proportionably essential. A lot of inner meaning in what he said. This set of beliefs represented a fundamental break from the aristocratic ways of the old world. A republic that was for the people, by the people, and definitely requires an educated electorate. With this new world also came a new conviction that individuals could determine their own future, that their birth or circumstances no longer limited their potential. True meaning of democracy. It is an admitted fact that there's a very intimate relationship between democracy and education. In a democracy, education is given primacy. For, I believe it is a prerequisite. Education, I believe, is a prerequisite for the survival and success of democracy. Education fosters a democratic temper in the minds of people. Values like liberty, dignity of individual, equality, justice, cooperation, sharing of responsibility are applied to education to make it more effective, meaningful, relevant, and useful. Democracy, in order to be reality and a way of life, has to be introduced from the very beginning of education. And its values need to be practiced in educational institutions. So today, since we have an august gathering of esteemed educators in our forum, we will definitely come in the later part of my deliberation. I would like to emphasize on the very important role of schools and educators in inculcating a democratic culture. in nurturing democracy. But before a thorough discussion with regard to this relationship that we discussed between democracy and education, it is essential that we look at the basics. As we are all aware that in democracy, it's a form of government which prevails on the rule of majority. Government of the people, by the people, and for the people. So this is a political connotation of the term democracy. Now let's look at it economically. Economically, it is a system where no one is exploited. Everybody is assured a fair standard of living and gets equal opportunity according to their ability. Where economic organizations are based on collective or cooperative basis for the benefit of the community. So we looked at the definition politically, we looked at the definition economically. Now if we look at the term democracy socially, it connotes absence of all distractions based on class, caste, creed, birth, religion, language, differences in terms of economic strata, and everyone being guaranteed basic fundamental rights and equality of opportunity so that they can actually unleash their potential. The social justice, which is central, which is at the core of the term democracy. Dignity of individual, which is primary. Thus, I believe there exists a paramount faith in the worth of common man, the tremendous potential that a common man has. And democracy actually acts as an enabler. It provides an even platform based on which we have seen so many examples, so many achievers in our great nation who in one life have achieved so much in spite of starting from very humble beginnings. That is the power of democracy. It doesn't allow an individual or a group to perpetually dominate. People from all ranks will come up if they're capable. Thus, a sense of cooperation, liberty, responsibility, justice. So, we look at democracy as a way of life, as a way of doing things. So, when we discuss this particular topic, one name which will always come will be that of John Dewey. John Dewey, I think significant amount of literature that we find in this particular topic is attributable to him. Democracy and education. He's, some of the most renowned work that has happened, renowned books that have been written are by this gentleman. I remember reading one of his quotes where he said, and it is very apt, he said democracy is more than a form of government. Democracy is more than a form of government. It is primarily a mode of associated living, of conjoint communicated experiences. So see, he takes democracy to the next level, from government to a mode of associated living where we all live together and communicate our experiences. Thus, as a way of life, where problems are solved through healthy debates, discussion, deliberation, or persuasion, exchange of views, instead of violence, destruct, and conflict. Thus, a lot of emphasis has been laid by him on social relationships among individuals. And the fact that an individual gets limitless opportunities to blossom, which when we were seeing the video at the beginning of our session, and when we heard about our neighboring nations, we realized that as a nation we are so fortunate. As the largest democracy in the world, we have always been able to hold on to our democratic values. And indeed, as far as democratic values are concerned, as far as democracy is concerned, India stands as a shining example in front of the rest of the world. I remember another very important quote and a very apt one by a renowned academician, Professor Selim, where he said, democracy is a form of government in which everyone has a share. Therefore, in the business of government, everybody is equally an actor or player. And the will of people, the mandate of people is well recognized and given primacy, given importance. Now, coming to the educational part of it. So, we were discussing about political, economical, social connotation, but this is predominantly an academic forum with so many esteemed educators. The whole reason why I thought that let's start with other aspects, because in my humble opinion, I wanted to present a all-round 360-degree view of the whole topic. But coming back to our focus area with regard to educational implications, we will all agree that there is an inseparable connection between democracy and education. This is something which is inseparable. And democracy can never be thought of in segregation from the spectrum of education. Always these two terms will go together. And it has been admitted on all hands that in any nation, democracy depends. Now, whether a nation will be able to uphold its democratic traditions, it depends upon the character and intelligence of its citizens. Again, another very famous point of view of John Dewey with regard to the connection between democracy and education. He once said, the devotion of democracy to education is a familiar fact. The devotion is a familiar fact. And he said that a government resting upon popular suffrage cannot be successful unless those who govern and obey their governors are educated. Thus, the emphasis on education, both for the electorate as well as for the elected college, has been emphasized time and again. Now, coming from the world of philosophy and academics, I remember a very apt quote by Bernard Shaw. Let's come back to more lighter ways of life. I remember what Bernard Shaw said, and something very meaningful with regard to value of education in democracy. He said, democracy implies election of the corrupt few by the ignorant many. Of course, this was said in lighter vein. Therefore, education is a major means to enrich the strengths and overcome the weakness of the people. It is also a means for the widespread diffusion of democratic values. So, according to Bernard Shaw, unless and until education is widespread, consequences will be catastrophic. In fact, Radhakrishnan Commission, early years of independence, 1948-49, came with a very important finding, and I'll say school of thought, where the commission observed that education is the greatest instrument of social emancipation by which we actually establish democracy, and we also establish the spirit of equality. So thus, it's crystal clear that democracy can function properly only if all its citizens are aware of their rights. And when we say educated, we not only mean formal education, but education, I believe, is a much larger concept. Definitely, formal education is important, no doubt about it. But it's not only about receiving great grades or academic accolades. I guess life also is a great teacher. But being aware of one's right, being aware about the value of democracy, I believe is very, very important. Now, coming to democratic education, education in a democracy is meant not for a microscopic minority, but for a macroscopic majority. So education has to be broad-based, where everybody gets the benefit, not only a privileged few, So all subjects, and each of this subject has their own importance, are equally important. With the main aim of being able to produce democratic citizens, who not only understand objectively the plethora of social, political, economic, and cultural programs, but also they're well informed enough to form their own independent judgment on any social issue, on any problem. And creating a passion for social service, service towards the nation, equipping them with power of judgment, scientific thinking, and deciding what is right and wrong for themselves, for the nation. So there's no doubt about it with regard to how education and democracy are interlinked and how education is so important to nurture democracy. Whether it be with regard to developing the basic qualities or characters which are essential for functioning of democratic life, whether it, like for instance, critically evaluating a particular thing, ensuring that new generation of students, children who are coming up, they develop a deep love for the country, for the nation, love for their work. They're able to think critically. I remember going through a particular report, which I found very interesting, which was published in 1977, definitely a few decades back, but the findings still hold really true. This was published in US by National Education Commission Association, NEA. And they stated, they listed out the main purpose of education, and they listed only 4 purposes. So they said the entire education system should gear up towards 4 basic purposes. First and foremost, the objective of self-realization, obtaining an inquisitive mind, ability in speech, reading, knowledge regarding healthy habits, utilization of leisure hours, developing aesthetic interests, and building character. Very important. Second, very important goal that they outlined was objectives of human relationship. So the basic aim of education, according to the commission, should be to develop respect for humanity, for friendship, for cooperation, courtesy, polite behavior, appreciation of family life, skills in managing one's family and work front, and being able to establish democratic relationships in family. So there's a lot of emphasis given on the democracy, whether be it in terms of establishing democratic relationships in family or in the work front. Third was objectives of economic efficiency, choosing a particular skill, developing knowledge in one's own vocation of life, occupational efficiency, continuous upskilling. And fourth was civic responsibility. Again, objective of civic responsibility so much interlinked with democracy. Understanding various social processes, performing duties of citizen, faith in social justice and democratic principles. Now, another very important aspect. Now, going back to John Dewey, and John Dewey wrote this 100 years back, but still holds so relevant. When I was going through National Education Policy, NEP 2020, and in fact, we had a full session on that with regard to vocational education. How NEP has very rightly acknowledged the role of vocational education, and a lot of emphasis has been given on that. And I was going through the fact that Dewey recognizes this, and he really described this at length, the importance of vocational education. He wrote that we start out as members of communities for associated living. And thus, our first community is our family, own family, where we are nurtured, we experience face-to-face relationships. And he felt that, as in his book, Democracy and Education, which is the title of the book, same as our topic for the day, he discussed at length with regard to social communities and how individuals develop out of those communities. He also discussed with regard to infants and their relationship to their mothers, as well as extended families. And do you recognize the fact that it is so important that democratic traditions prevail in the family? Because this is the basic foundation based on which the democratic thought process comes. Again, I remember a very interesting observation. He wrote that it's important to move beyond individualism. All living things have the need to maintain themselves through renewal and thus establish a continuity of life. And education is how people renew themselves. Now, when we say how people renew themselves and provide social continuity in today's age, the need to constantly unlearn and relearn, the need to constantly upgrade ourselves. Like, for example, last few months or almost a year now, the huge long list of challenges that all of us faced that the pandemic threw on us, and how so quickly people adapted to change way of life. They renewed themselves with vigor, right? So much of upgradation on all fronts, including digital education. So I guess that is something that he really emphasized. Another very important aspect that Dewey mentioned that I was telling you, that he really discussed at length how to balance between formal and informal education. And to him, it was really important how to maintain conditions that promote active, growth-stimulating forms of formal education. He felt education is not only about sharing of experiences, but continuous reconstruction of experiences, which adds value. And along with that, he also mentioned at length with regard to the fact that how it is so important not to distinguish between academic and vocational education. He went at length that the removal of existing division between academic and vocational education. And in fact, NEP 2020 also, let's focus on exactly on this aspect. Pedagogy in the form of discussion and dialogue. Now, I found this really interesting and wanted to share with all of you with regard to his thought process on vocational education. He believed that there should be a policy where students study a range of academic and vocational subjects, which helps them later point of time. Now, coming to methods of teaching, right? So we discussed about the meaning of democracy. We discussed about democracy and education, how these two terms are interlinked. The background with regard to from where this particular term has come, a very, very famous work in the entire academic area some 100 years back, which still holds so much of relevance. From there, we move on to methods of teaching. According to Dewey, he said that encouraging children's participation in teaching learning process is really important, which provides them ample scope to think and reflect. Therefore, democratic trend gives rise to a host of modern and dynamic methods of teaching, where children are actively encouraged to participate, like learning by doing, experiential learning, project method, Dalton plan, Montessori method, socialized techniques, seminars, symposiums, problem solving, group work, which our esteemed educators, I'm sure, are doing this, and I'm sure our panel also will throw light on this. Now, in the above techniques, emphasis is given on a children's active participation, with regard to how much of interest, inquiry, the power of judgment, how it is developing, independent thinking. And he emphasized on the aspect that the teacher no longer only instruct, but he rather guides, encourages children to explore the vast knowledge repository in the deep sea of education, And that's exactly today when we see that modern educators acting as facilitators, acting as mentors for great peer-to-peer discussion. That's exactly what has been done. So much of good work happening. Now coming to the role of teacher in democracy, I believe this is the most important part. Because I firmly believe that a teacher has a very, very important role in democracy. And success of a democracy depends up to a very large extent on teachers, their outlook, attitude, and way of life. And how the teachers will make use of all available opportunities and resources to enrich the experience of children and ensure their all-round development. And the fact that teachers encourage so much of democratic traditions within the classrooms, children's actively participating, choosing their own projects, and teacher is cooperating by providing ample amount of freedom, love, empathy, but yet being professional and objective. Thus, in any democratic system, teacher occupies a very important place because first time children are exposed to democratic traditions, democratic feelings, the feeling of empowerment. And this is where, for any democracy to function successfully, role of teachers, especially in school, I think is very, very important. That's where basic pillars or basic thought process is shaped. Schools again also have a great role with regard to democratic principles because schools, as we have always discussed, act as replica of the community. They're like miniature versions of the society where democratic ideas are not only taught theoretically but are practiced through a lot of activities. Thus, schools ought to stress the duties and responsibilities of individual citizens, training people in various ways of life. So no doubt about it that today's topic is, I believe, one of the most, and this is one topic which will always be important, always be contemporary. We have a great panel today, diverse panel, and I really look forward to their deliberation on this very important topic and look forward to hear from them. I thank all of you for giving me a patient hearing. Over to you, Shubhai.
Thank you, Achin. Thank you for that wonderful presentation. I think you spoke about the various aspects that connect these two constructs, democracy and education. And as Achin mentioned, we have a stellar panel with us today. I will introduce them to you first. We have with us Mrs. Anuradha Sinha, who holds an MSc and a BEd degree. She started her journey as a teacher around 20 years back as a coaching class teacher, and today she works as the principal of the Manav Mandir High School in Mumbai. She has had experiences in ICSE, CBSE, and various other boards. She worked in Dubai as the in charge of special needs students. She has been the recipient of the Humanitarian Award and the Knowledge of Seed Awards. And her hobby is to be actively associated with several NGOs. Ma'am, thank you so much for being here today. It's a privilege to have you with us. We also have with us Borsha Chakraborty. Borsha has more than 11 years of experience working as a gender expert and policy advocacy specialist. She is presently working at Breakthrough India, responsible for digital positioning, advocacy, and partnerships. She has experience working on training and curriculum development and has contributed a module on digital media literacy as a part of training and resource material for health and wellness of school-going children under the aegis of the School Health Program of Ayushman Bharat, and is a part of the resource group responsible for its implementation. She has designed and implemented various training programs with people from various marginalized communities with socio-economic, political, cultural diversities. Borsha has been part of various civil society, UN Sustainable Development Goal status reports, and has contributed in analyzing existing policies from the gender perspective. Borsha, thank you so much for joining. Privileged to have you on this panel. I will now stop my share and switch on my camera, and we will start the discussion. Ma'am, thank you so much for being here. Porsche, glad you could join. Ma'am, before I come to the questions that we have for you, I would like to know your initial thoughts about these two constructs and how they interact, democracy and education.
May I?
Yes, ma'am, please.
Okay. Good evening, one and all present here. I would like to thankful to Notebook for my lovely introduction and giving me a chance to be a part of this discussion. And this topic always is very critical as well as very relevant topic because it is related with one side democracy and on another hand it is education. So as an educationist, it is a very interesting topic for me. And as Mr. Bhattacharya told everything about the democracy. So here I would like to say democracy in context of education. As you know that in our early childhood, parent and teacher were the deciding factor to take our subject, to take our stream, as well as to pursue our career. But these days, at modern time, we are the witness that students are free to take their own subject. They are deciding their stream, whether they want to be pursue their career as an engineer, doctor, or artist. So we have to be very, very thankful to our educationist as well as our policy maker who made today student this kind of given this kind of platform to choose their own career. So today's world is, as everybody know that today world is passing through a phase during this pandemic, which poses the threat of disappearance of long accepted value. Why all this thing? Because of the lockdown period. And this lockdown period made our lifestyle what monotonous. But there is a need to stress democratic value and engagement in education to aid democracy. So I am very, very thankful to NCF. As all of you know, it is National Curriculum Framework 2005 and NEP, that is our National Education Policy 2020-21, which strongly advocates value like cooperation, respect for each other, not only for human beings. We have to show respect for animal also, monuments also. As everybody witnessed what happened yesterday in the eve of 26th of January at Lal Killa. So we have to show respect to not only living things, only for, but also for our monuments. As you know that what is the importance of Lal Killa for us, for each and every Indian, how important it is, and it is the symbol of what. So this kind of thing is coming from education only, as well as education inculcate tolerance, justice, plus make us responsible citizen, diversity, as well as it helps in peaceful conflict resolution. We know that conflict is what a part of human life, whether it is your home, workplace, anywhere, conflict is always there. But due to education, we can resolve it peacefully by giving importance to each other thoughts. And how all these are possible? All these are possible due to the good teachers, because all these kind of traits we are finding in our teachers. So as Mr. Bhattacharya also said, teachers are our role model. We know that in early childhood, all students, all kids love their teacher, and what is their most important act? Be like a teacher. So they love their teacher. They try to copy their teacher. Why? Because teachers are their role model. So as a teacher, we have to show all these character, all this kind of value system, so that easily we can cultivate these in our children, and slowly, slowly it should be the part or habit of our students. And if all this kind of value system successfully we inculcate in our children, then no doubt tomorrow India or any country develop like a what? Positive country. Positive, what is the meaning of positive country here? Environment should be strong, helpful, friendly, as everybody know that without the caring of each other, development is not possible. So because of all this trait, all this character, these days role of teacher become very, very important. There should be, means there is no chance of what? Casual approach or carelessness. As we know that doctor importance is in the operation theater, everybody knows that this, agree with me. As well as in military, you know that where they are standing and what is the role of these military people. Like that, teachers are very, very important in not only in the classroom, outside the classroom also, because we are influencing each and every character of a child. So I pray and I say to all my teachers that always try to be a role model for your student, because students are minutely observing us. Even our dress, how we are talking, how we are walking, everything. So each day we are impacting our kids. So according to me, if the education system is healthy, then obviously we will make our country healthy and wealthy. And all these are possible due to the, as you know that democracy means what? Freedom to opt whatever students want. Means as a parent, as a teacher, we have not to force anything to them that, okay, in my family, all are doctor, so you have to take bio. No, we have to give freedom to take their own subject. If there will be interest, then automatically the performance of a child will be go to any extent. There will be no any limit of flourishing. But if as a traditional parent, we will force anything to them, then you know that what is the end result? Suicide, frustration, these days depression, frustration, these are very, very common terms. And why all this happen? Because somehow, somewhere, as a parent, as a teacher, we have not given that comfort, that trust, that kind of bond to our kids. So they are facing this kind of problem. And all these are possible. Again, I am saying, if there is balance between democracy and education. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. What shall come to next with the same question? The entities of democracy and education, how do you see them interacting as a social structure?
So, thank you very much for inviting. It's really interesting conversation. Um, so, I see education and democracy in multiple ways. One is education and information is pillar of democracy, where democracy functions on the basis of education and information, as Achin very clearly spoke about. And the second thing is democracy is also an ecosystem. Democracy is also a network of relation. And democracy, what we are talking today, it's very easy and it's very romantic to read about. But have we seen democratic principles when growing up and like when we were receiving education? No. We have seen how things were formed for us. We have seen how till today education is perceived as mainstream education. We never see farming as an education. We never see pottery as an education. We see education that, oh, it's very institutionalized idea of education that you go to school or college, you become doctor, engineer, or some respectable job which is approved by like a class of people. So even if I'm not very good at like academic study, I would like to be like an illustrator, because it flies with like a certain class of people. I will not like to be a farmer. And if we see, look at the crisis today, a farmer's child do not want to get into farming because it's not shown as like a indicator of education, where it defies democracy. So um, the popular perception, I mean, democracy gave us a very interesting framework to basically look at education in a different ways, but somehow it's our fault as people to limit our perception and idea of education and restrict it to institutional education system. And I'll just like, I was listening to ma'am when she was saying, I was actually thinking, I feel that a student teacher relationship should be like a mutual relationship, like where it's always been seen that, oh, I want to copy a teacher or I want to aspire to be a teacher. But it's always like a pedestal up, like the teacher is here, knows everything, and the student do not knows everything, anything. So you have to listen. But democracy is not that. Democracy talks about equal footing. Democracy talks about where obviously, like as a teacher, you will definitely know more than a student, but a student might have certain things you can learn from. So it's never like a very hierarchical practice of like this person is the source and this person is a recipient. And I think that is how where we lack. That is where we are told to mug up things to get like a better score, but we never think, if I want to aspire something, why I need to aspire something, why I need to critically think about it. So if I talk about, again, coming back to democracy and education, I think it's basically critical thinking among the population so that they're informed, they have the knowledge to choose either like a government, or to choose your own career of life, to take your own decision. And having everybody in the equal footing, not like, a group of students will get like a different kind of a thing, and then the students in the rural India, for example, like after COVID, the dropout rates in rural India has gone really up. The girls are getting married now. In our ecosystem, we do not discuss that. We talk about like, how it's making more accessible, but is it accessible for a lot of people? Democracy needs to address that. So democracy is a wonderful idea, and it's very, very difficult idea to practice, I feel, because it's on within us. There is a very famous quoting called "Personal is political," which is what we preach, that we practice in our life, and we actually fail miserably there. So it's very important to first, look at ourselves, and then how we are practicing, because all of us are part of democracy, and all of us are somewhere or other part of the education.
Great. Ma'am, I will take a cue from what Borsha said and actually take a question that Mr. Roy De Silva, who's a school principal in near Chandigarh, he says, how can our schools and their day-to-day running become more democratic? Which I think echoes with what Borsha said about putting democracy in practice on a day-to-day schooling level. How do you see that happening?
Me?
Yes, ma'am.
See, as everybody is knowing that democracy means it is not only the political word, or we have not to stick with the literal meaning of the democracy. Here, I am in the support of democracy means we have to give freedom to the student to choose their subjects. Because once we will remember our childhood, means 40 years back, I am saying, so that time, that the behavior of parents, how means dictatorship kind of thing, I can say. Sorry to say this word, but it is true. And teacher were also like that. There were no friendship kind of thing. We were not giving value of the student interest, their emotion. All these things were very, very negligible. We were ignoring all these things. I'm not saying the present time, I'm talking about my childhood. And moreover, everywhere it was like that only. But here, with the support of the democracy, we have given liberty. We have to give liberty to the student to select their own career, own future, whatever they want. And as a parent, as a teacher, what should be our role? Our role should be as a facilitator, as a mentor, not as a dictator. If suppose that I am weak in math and I am saying to my parent, no, I want to pursue my career in CA or accountant or as an engineer, then as a parent, I have to advise my child, no beta, it is not good for you because there is a error in your mathematical calculation. You have no interest in math. So as a mentor, we can say everything to them, analyze everything to them, and be very, very free with our kids. We have to say what is their weaknesses, what is their strength, and we have to develop means a kind of environment that kids should come out, cope up from their weaknesses, as well as strengthen their strength. Whatever their plus point, we try to focus on that rather than always cribbing on their weaknesses. So here my says for democracy is this: not that always creep that you have to take, means we have not to impose or you have not to pressurize for anything to the kids. We have to give entire sky. Where they want to fly, they can fly. But as a parent, as a teacher, this is our responsibility, our duty to monitor them, observe them. And if they are going in wrong direction, if they are deviating from their path, then we have to explain them. And all these are possible if there will be a strong bond, trust, means so that we have not to hide anything from our kids. As a parent, we have not to hide, whether it is a financial crisis or it is a relationship crisis, any kind of crisis, any kind of problem. We have to be very, very open with our kids, but we have to be very careful for the selecting of the word. Suppose that there is any problem related with the sexual education in my family. So open means not that we have to be very vulgar. So in decent word, in proper sentences, according to the age of my child, I have to explain what is it. Molestation, what is molestation? What is the good touch, bad touch? So we have to be very open with our kids, as well as student also. I can say this is the responsibility of not only the parent, because you know that in this modern time, parent have no time. So many times, this is my personal experience, that parent have no time to come on see their result. So many times it happened that we are calling parent in emergency situation, please come and talk to us. In that time also parent have no time. This is the fact. This is the means current scenario. So as a teacher, it is our responsibility that sometime we have to act like parent as well as teacher, and develop that kind of connectivity, bond with the kids, so that if we will develop such kind of trust bond, then automatically what happen, whatever the thing, means whether it is mistake, confusion, any kind of crime also I can say, then child has that guts to come and say each and everything to you. And in that moment, as a means guide, you have to guide them instead of fighting, instead of slapping or cribbing. We have to make him or her very comfortable and try to come out from that situation. So here democracy means this kind of liberty, this kind of right, this kind of platform we have to provide as a mature person. Because kid, as ma'am told, teachers are always here and kids are here. It is universal truth. It will be always like that. So as a mature person, we have to guide them. Instead of imposing anything, we have to guide them for the correct thing. And all these are not possible in one day. It should be our habit. As a teacher, it should be our habit to focus and give attention to each and every child. So this is rule in our school. You will not believe, this is rule in our school, that once teacher enter into the classroom, instead of taking marking attendance etc or starting the lesson, we are at least 5 minutes gives to each and every child. In 5 minutes, try to connect with each and every individual. What's the problem? If sometime what happens, child is very silent, very quiet, then teacher is going and just touch. So whatever thing is there, it comes out. So instead of rushing with the syllabus, we are focusing on all these emotions. And for that, you will not believe, last year we got award from Mumbai Education Department for this kind of value system. And as you know that our school name is Manav Mandir. So here, of course, we are focusing on academics and everything, but that kind of relationship is there. And all the parents and the visitors which are coming, they are feeling that. Once you enter in our school, I'm inviting all of you, come and see, you will feel that kind of environment, that kind of bond. So teachers are there. Of course, we have to complete our syllabus. We have to complete our academic calendar. We have to conduct our exam. Everything is going on. But this become our habit to connect with child before we start the class. So automatically what happened? You know that each and every child is unique. Means we can't compare A with B. So we are going with the pace of everybody. So that is the tactics methodology, you can say. We are going with the pace of each and everybody. So everybody is feeling very comfortable in the classroom of teacher. Whether I'm weak in Hindi or very good in Hindi, it doesn't make any difference. Child is thinking that teacher is going with my pace, because that kind of connectivity is there, that kind of bond is there. So students are thinking that, yeah, I have freedom. I can ask anything to my teacher. Friendship is also there, but respect is also there, because while democracy, we can't compromise with discipline, because discipline is very, very important. You know, without maintaining discipline, nothing is possible in the system. So democracy is also important as well as discipline. So I mean to say, democracy means that kind of comfort should be there. If we as an adult imagine about the Hitler, so automatically we get unrest. Means which kind of man he is, how, what he will ask, what he will impose, etc. But once we are saying India democratic, automatically that kind of comforts come in our mind, emotion, that okay, kuch nahi hoga, sab chalta. So sab chalta is different thing, but here democracy means discipline also. We have to maintain discipline, and how it is possible if we are believe in our education system, if we are educating our student very nicely. Means there should be blending of the value education as well as whatever the curriculum we are going through, whether it is CBSE, ICSE, IB. But we have to blend that kind of value system in our child. So before breaking the rule, he or she has to think 100 times whether I have to do this or not. So that kind of character we have to inculcate in our kids. So that is actually at present time, I'm very honest that teaching, all the schools are facing from this problem. How to tackle the current generation student to mold in a disciplined manner. Because you know that in the name of democracy, freedom, right, etc., everybody want to fly without any direction. So as a teacher, it is a challenging role, or it is a challenge for us, that how come we can respect individual with all these things. Discipline, importance of discipline, importance of patriotism, everything we have to inculcate in child. And it should be what very smartly, I can say, very smartly we have to say. And if we will adopt all this thing in our daily life, then no need to go artificially, or we have not to rehearsal for that. If as a teacher I have all this trait, then no need to so the plastic smile or plastic kind of relationship with our child. If I have emotion, then automatically it will come out. So according to me, at the time of selection as a career of a teacher, we have to be very, very careful whether we have all this trait or not. Then only it is possible to handle the current generation kids, because they are lacking in emotion from all the sides. Whether it is, as you know that these days there is no system of joint family, nuclear family, no time. Most of the students are living with their nanny, caretaker are there. So there is lack of emotion, plus friendship is not there. There is no playground. They are not going to mingle with their friends when coming from the school or colleges. So all these are lacking over there. So to see all this point, we have to be very, very means sensible with the kids and try to means nourish all these things which is missing in current generation. And all these are possible. Again, I am saying if teachers are good, if teachers are honest, then only all these are possible. Just if as a namesake that I'm a teacher because I am not getting any job and I pursue my career in any school or college, then that teacher according to me is not the 100% teacher. That is, that teacher is not giving justice with the kids. So if I'm a teacher, then it should be in our blood that I'm a teacher, and there should be passion for a teacher. Then only we can, whatever I said is possible. And I know that these days so many teachers I met, they are not, I can say 100%, but they are trying to give their 99% to the student, because we are also the responsible citizen. We are knowing the scenario of our society. So teachers are also doing a lot for the society in this way, to taking care of the students' emotion also. Not only the academic, not only the character, emotions also. Thank you.
Wonderful, ma'am. Uh, I'll just quickly take one comment that Mr. Roy de Silva has put in, and I think this is very interesting because, ma'am, you mentioned Hitler. He says, interesting, she mentions Hitler as today, January 27th, is also the Holocaust Memorial Day. A big commemoration of the same is happening in Israel and in parts of Europe that are severely affected by this genocide. I think right next to our Republic Day, which is perhaps the day we celebrate being a democracy, it's necessary also to remember what happens when you lose democracy. What shall come to you? Something that ma'am said, this has been my learning from all these 70 episodes that we've had on Together for Education so far. When you and I went to school, we went to school around the same time. From then till now, schooling has completely changed in urban India as such, right? The relationship between teachers and students have evolved drastically. The relationship between parents and teachers have also evolved drastically, right? My question to you, and you being the expert in this particular field, when I go outside urban India, when I look at rural schools or when I look at marginalized sections, does this hold?
Yeah, I mean, the one of the biggest problem what I see is lack of empathy. And as ma'am was saying, I mean, when we do a lot of workshop with students, teachers, and parents, we a lot of times see that the students and parents trying to solve a problem on the basis of their assumption. So suppose somebody is getting harassed online. For an example, I'm taking. Um, the parents tend to like think so we do this exercise. It's very interesting. We ask the parents, set of parents, that what do you think, what kind of challenges your child is facing online, and then we ask the same question, the same like the child, and then we basically get the parents and the students together and sit and we try to match up whether the challenges are same. And believe me, the challenges are like way different. Okay. And the parents think it's because computer and internet literacy among parents are way lower than the children these days. They can make fool of their parents, and at the same time the parents, because it's unknown, there's a lot of associated fear with it, right? And as an adult we have like a certain kind of fears, like getting fraud or like monetary fraud and this and that, more of like a crime perspective. But as a child, they know better how to deal with the fraud than us. Okay. Now the thing is, but we are trying to solve a problem under the assumption. Now it never becomes, even in the urban or the rural area. I think urban, yes, I mean I feel that some of the schools are like very democratic. We worked with about Sri Ram school and all this, very very democratic and very interesting curriculums and stuff. But in rural India, sending children to school itself is like a lot of struggle. Okay. uh, uh, I mean, and there are a lot of myths and pieces around. If we have this tendency to think that, um, if in a natural situation the girls tend to drop out more, but it's seen that the boys tend to drop out more in certain parts of the country. Like for if I take example of Murshidabad district in West Bengal, you will see people men the girls are finishing their education at least till 12 because they have nowhere to go, so they are finishing their education. The boys have this whole push to go and earn, so 7th 8th they're leaving their education, going to some other city and becoming laborers. At the same time, if you see who are these people going to rural India, so even in rural India, we cannot say all this government school. Rural India has like many private schools, I think mostly private schools. And those are like concoction of I don't know what, like it has no setup, no rule, it just works in a different way. But still this eagerness to send your children to private school because you think that a government school is bad. So I deeply believe there's a propaganda by the government to actually defame government schools, because we have all I have studied in a government school, government college, government university throughout. But then I have seen like now those government schools, so during our days if you get through a government school, that's seen like a good, you're a good student. And if you go to a private school, you're not a good student. Okay, now it's just the opposite. And I passed out in 2004. Now I see that, the government school were deliberately thrown under the bus. And there are several studies. I think Oxfam did a study to do like a kind of a comparative analysis of like a government school and the private school. And they have found that the government school systems, and if you come to Delhi, I think Delhi has like a wonderful government school system, and they have shown that how education can be democratic, how everybody can access education and a quality education, not only education. So coming back to the rural India, yes, so this entire push of sending your child to private education, irrespective how is the education. And now see who are the people going to the government schools. They are poorest of the poor. Most of the people access government school because they get midday meal. I recently read a wonderful article on the madrasa education system in West Bengal, and it's seen that only 9% of the Muslim population actually goes to madrasa, and among that 62% of the population is their girl student, 62% of the total madrasa student. Okay. And even it's been I think last year there were like more than say 75,000 madrasa students who gave examinations when non-Muslims. So the entire article basically talks about that this is like a free education system. So only people who cannot attend any education system, or a girl who is sent to a school because okay, you are sending to school but no aspiration attached to it, are sent to government schools. But not necessarily the government school infrastructure is bad. Now again, if I go back to this whole idea of the democracy and democratization, I think this whole entire RTE, right to education, and government schooling system is a wonderful system, and it's a wonderful act which talk about ensuring education for all, so that everybody can access education, everybody can engage into critical thinking. And why I need to choose this and why I don't want to choose that is also a part of democracy. So I somehow feel that in rural India I have a mixed feeling. I have actually seen a lot of very interesting work going on in Haryana schools, where people are doing a lot of workshops and curriculums around gender inclusion, having critical thinking about your life aspiration. And also, like as we were discussing, like how aspiration is also part of your democracy, your democratic idea and democratic thinking. And it is aspiration cannot be taught. You cannot be told to aspire to become a doctor, right? You have to aspire yourself, and how will you aspire is basically the critical thinking, how critical you think. So um I'll say that yes, the situation is different, because there are some issues of lack of access when it comes to tools, um, definitely. But still, how it is important to basically talk about rural education, because mostly poorest of the poor are going to rural education. And even if we kind of categorize, we'll see Dalits and Muslims are going to uh, these schools where the access there's a, for free they can study. So I think we should not universalize our conversation. I think we should specifically discuss like a piece of it, because the overall problems are very very different. So if urban kids having problem that they're not able to go out and meet their friends, the rural kids might be getting married because she is not going to school for 1 year. So the situations are very very different, and it requires a different way of solving the problem. Having said that, I think the government is, NCRT and government, like the thing I was also part of, Ayushman Bharat. It talks about like reaching out to, more than 150 schools in the most marginalized sector, and having curriculums like, sexual reproductive health, digital media literacy, then, value system, gender education. So there are like 11 such modules. And uh, one thing very interesting, like while making a curriculum on digital media, I had to think the entire curriculum non-digitally. Okay. So my basic work was to make them think when they're um, consuming something through internet, maybe through TV or through wherever, any entertainment source, that please do not submit to any idea. Question it, understand it, critically think about it, process it, and then if you want to submit, go ahead. But don't give in to any kind of beliefs or any kind of norms just because somebody in a higher position telling you. So I'm a very indisciplined student in that case, but that's what basically what we try to propagate, that please, nobody is holy sacrosanct and nobody is giving you like the ultimate thing. You might have more experience in terms of understanding many things which I might not have. And that this has been our experience, like, assuming a lot of things, we go and we talk about, suppose, Facebook and Twitter, and then we got to know people do not use Facebook and Twitter in those areas and use something else. So we also come from a lot of assumptions and try to teach people, but it's important that they also question us back. And another thing with rural students, to deal with rural students, so the thing is, urban students have a lot of exposure. So a lot of things they can connect better because they're exposed to a lot of programs, like a lot of webinars they're attending, or that their parents, they come from like a specific class background, or like with social network where they have this opportunity to learn. But very interestingly, we were doing this workshop in Jharkhand, and we were interacting with not very young kids, but they were like in the college. And we asked them to write any issue which is very close to your heart. Now, people picked up topics like Jharkhand ki Rani, demonetization, uh, and it's not that Jharkhand ki Rani cannot be close to your heart or demonetization, but it was written in a very distant format. So when we talk about politics and the democracy, we never again try to look it within us. I do not see that how my rights are getting violated. I do not see how I'm a political being. We very loosely use that I'm a very apolitical person, which is a political statement once again, that you are choosing to be apolitical, so that's political. So how political I am. So it took us some time to make them understand that how it's important to locate your position, where you are positioned, what are the challenges you are facing. And people started talking about, especially tribal girls started talking about that, how they're bullied because of their skin color. Now, coming from like a Bengali household, I have seen Aranya Din Ratri, and I have seen Simi Garwal's, the skin color was romanticized. So in my head, that the tribal girls, the skin color is romanticized, but I don't know that how she is subjected to violence because of her skin color, because that's again not like a popular norm. That fairness is the popular norm. And how that is political, how a democracy where our constitution says that nobody should be discriminated on the basis of their color, creed, caste, gender, but it's being practiced. That's the reality. And I think time and again we have to come back to our own practices at every, as a person, as me as a personal, as like in a private space, me as in my professional space, me as an educator. It's very important that we see where lies our accountability, where we are connected, we positioning us as a political being, and hence looking at how we you know increase our level of political thinking so that we can critical thinking, so that we can actually take part in democracy properly.
Wonderful. Uh, Anuradha ma'am, I will come to you with a second part of Mr. De Silva's question actually. He had asked how can democratic education be inculcated among students in the school education scenario? What I'm looking for here is in school, you are creating future citizens, right? They're going to pass out of school exactly around the age where they become voting adults. And not just about voting, but becoming responsible members of the civil society. And therefore, inculcating the values of democracy within them becomes very, very important. I understand that a certain egalitarianism is what you follow in your school, but democracy has other aspects to it also. Ma'am, if you could just shed some light on that, how your school does this.
See, as you know that the if we will go in the wider meaning of democracy, as ma'am also said that there should be the right of education, there should be no any difference between gender, color, etc. So all these things are there everywhere in India. It is there because we can't do anything illegal. So, but inside the school, as I told in the beginning also, we are giving equal and enough chance to everybody to take their own interest, and according to their interest they have to do whatever they want to do. Because see, in academic in CBSE we have only 6 subjects, so that's six subjects are compulsory, but apart from that there is extracurricular activities. So in the extracurricular activities they are free to take without even asking the parent teacher. If suppose that I am very good in art, I can pursue my extracurricular activity in that field: music, dance, yoga, aerobics, as well as taekwondo. Everything is there. So this is called as extracurricular activity. And in our academic calendar, because it is the guideline of CBSE that we have to include extracurricular activity in our academic calendar. So in every week, there are either debate competition, dance competition, music competition. These kind of things are there in our academic calendar, and it is nobody is forcing. It is totally depend upon child that he want to participate in this part, this program, that program, whatever the program. Plus we have club also. For example, quiz club we have, language club we have, acting club we have. So if my interest is there, then I can go over there. So all these things, why all these things CBSE is means making compulsory, so that since the beginning, from primary department, from the primary class, student get that kind of confidence, that kind of freedom to develop their interest in that particular field. And you will might everybody is aware about that. This year CBSE made art integration project. Art integrated project means what? In all the subjects it is compulsory that we have to include the creativity of a child. Means suppose that I am a math teacher, so it is not that only with the help of the smart board or chalk board and chalk method I have to solve the math. With the help of the music, with the help of the dance, with the help of the art and craft, we have to teach math to them. So why all these things we are doing? So that to boost their confidence. Because you know that in our society there is a phobia for math, there is a phobia for science. Generally it is a conception in our society that if you are intelligent you will take science, if you are weak you will take art. Like that we have still, whatever we are saying, democracy, democracy, right, this everything we are saying, coaching classes are there, parent are means ready to invest money for the education. Everything is there, but this kind of feeling is still there. That weak student, good student, excellent student, like that. So why all this thing government is also trying to do, so that student get very comfortable in that particular subject. Suppose that I am, again I'm saying, weak in science, but maybe my interest is in arts. So if teacher is teaching with the help of dance, with the help of art and craft thing, so I will understand that particular topic very easily, because according to me, there is no problem in mind of any child. If there is a problem, then he is considered as what, mental disabled child, or sane or abnormal kind of thing. But if you are coming to the normal school, you are sitting with all 30 or 25 students, it means mentally you are with everybody. Your level is like that, because the age group is same in each and every class. These days government is very strict with the giving admission. If you are 5 year, then you will get admission in grade 1 2, like that. So it means what, the age is same. So where the student are lacking because due to some confusion, the child is, and due to the fear, due to the lack of confidence, child is unable to ask on the spot to the teacher, or might be there is no interest with that particular teacher. Because once you want to connect with the subject, then you have to, teacher should be interesting, or teacher should be in good faith, good book of a child. Then only you have to develop your interest in that particular subject. So all these things are there. So because of this art integration, child is easily able to understand the topic. And if you understand the topic, then your whatever your goal is there, what your objective is there, automatically you will achieve. So this is a type of thing which all CBSE school are doing: extracurricular activity, art integrated course, as well as in our school, everywhere, not in our school, I'm saying everywhere it is that the student council kind of thing, means where there is the head boy, there is the captain, vice captain, sports captain, etc. So why this kind of functioning is going in each and every school? To develop the leadership quality, so that they can, not only the leadership quality, they can know the what is the importance of the discipline for the working of one unit. Because sometimes it happened that there is a teacher meeting, we are giving entire responsibility to the student council to take care of the discipline of the school, while dispersal time, morning assembly time, it is the responsibility of the student council to take care of all these things. So why? To experience all these things, what is the importance of discipline, what is the importance of cooperation, what is the importance of the coordination, etc. It is not necessary that I am very weak in math or science or English, so that I will not become the head boy. If I have that kind of leadership quality, then of course we are nominating or we are selecting child as a head boy or as a head girl. So in this way, we are trying to develop means future generation in a democratic way.
Wonderful, ma'am. Borsha, I'll come to you with the same thing, right? Two parts too. I'll first take the question that you, I think, were starting to type an answer to. We have a question that says, in education, does democracy mean that every teacher gets to give their own thoughts? And this, I think, is more from the organizational standpoint of a school.
I think so. I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's the beauty of democracy, where you listen to each other, even if you don't agree with each other. You listen and then basically process. And but again, I'll come back. Like, I think teachers' thought should be informed by the students, and not I mean, their experience. But as even ma'am was, saying that how it's difficult these days to connect with students, because there's a lot of generational gap. The things have changed. The kind of job I do today, my father will not understand, or like it did not existed like 5 years back. So yeah, but I think that thoughts and information should come from the students, and not like a top down. I don't know. I could answer your.
Well, I hope you did. And coming to the second part of it, what ma'am was talking about, uh, back in our school days, the teachers just said that, okay, you are the head boy, you're the head girl, here are the prefects, right? I understand that in a lot of schools today, it's an electoral process. Students actually have to stand for these positions and nominate themselves, and their elections are that happen. But more fundamentally, what do you think are the core democratic values, and how should the school go about imparting them?
I think it's very interesting. Like, if I mean, now what is happening, at least in like urban schools, where there is like a electoral process. So you basically understand that why you are choosing somebody. So you have an agenda, right? Like, that, oh, this person, if this person becomes the head boy, so I'll get to bunk school or whatever the thing is. Like, just give an example. So, and I'll vote for this person. And we basically in our school we used to make those people monitors who we can mess up with. So that's, but it's still like you are basically giving a thought behind selecting somebody. It's not merely somebody else's it's selecting. So I think that's really really interesting process. And I do think that that kind of builds a lot of agency among the students, that you think that you can exercise, you have certain power, and you can exercise, and you have to exercise it responsibly. So if you end up selecting like a bad head boy and head girl, then you have to face a burn for it. Like, so the country also works in a similar way. Like, see, we choose the governments. If governments mess up with us, then we suffer. Then we choose another government. So it's very similar principle, but it's interesting. It's also important to basically make people understand that, make students especially understands that, it's not something very distant. Democratic process is not something very distant. So and inculcating these kind of exercises. And I have seen in the rural, in one of the Haryana schools we work. um, so we do this skits, okay, where there's this tau comes, and who is basically not interested sending this girl child to school. And then we ask the students to come and argue with the tau. And there was this girl, I'll never forget. There's this girl who's like a tiny girl, even maybe in class fourth and fifth. The way she started arguing with the Tau, remarkable. And the points she was raising, that, oh, so the Tao is saying that, oh, this is very unsafe. You will not go to school because this road is very unsafe. And then she's like, so where lies your accountability as an adult to come and safeguard me and reach me to the school? Why are you expecting me to go alone? So this is basically your alibi to make me not go to school. And we were like, okay, fine. I mean, it was like a moment of cherish for us, because we have been working with the schools and having conversation on different issues. And those points she was challenging. She was not merely challenging on like, oh, I want to go to school. She was arguing with the Tao, and with like proper points. Whatever he was saying, she was defying with proper right arguments. And that is what is democracy. That is where, if a child is not allowed to go to school for XYZ reason, the child needs to argue that, oh, you are Tao, that doesn't mean that you are like, you are the best, or you know everything, or you are like the good. Because every time when we are talking about like teachers and how it is important for teachers to guide students, it's also important to say how teachers comes with biases, how teachers themselves practice discrimination. So now in a textbook, I'm saying don't discriminate anybody on the basis of color. And I myself discriminate in the class, saying, oh, I don't like you, you sit in the last bench. Or you are Dalit, so you are come and supposed to sweep the school. And which is very, very, very rampant in rural India. All the Dalit students are supposed to sit in the back of the class. They are supposed to clean the school. And that's happening. And mostly you'll see the Brahmins, the teachers who are Brahmins, and all the Brahmin students will sit in the front. And that's one of the major reason midday meal started. Midday meal started to break these barriers. Midday meal started to, so that everybody sits together and eats together. And if you know, like the RT Act says, the person who's supposed to cook the midday meal, are they supposed to come from SC/ST background. But a lot of problems happen. I mean, we read on newspapers that how that person is subjected to violence or not getting a job in the school because of the caste. So what we practice, again, it's very very evident, because no matter what I say, if I can say 1,000 words against dowry, but if I take dowry, then my other person is watching, looking at me and actually learning that I'm taking dowry no matter what I say. So basically I'm not saying, I'm saying democratic values, but I'm not practicing. So obviously the child is going to think that, oh, democracy is a farce because nobody practices it. So that becomes more difficult for us to practice democratic principles and democratic values and behaviors, so that it never becomes a farce or a myth. It never becomes something very bookish, because it's something very practical and something very beautiful. So yeah, I actually lost the plot.
So I think that was quite well put together. Anuradha ma'am, if you want to add anything, because that was pretty much the last question I had.
As ma'am was saying that Dalit were sitting on the last bench and Brahmin generally in the first. Because of that reason only, in our school there is a practice that every week we are changing the seat. Means suppose that roll number one sitting in the first bench, then second week he or he will be in second bench, like that. So rotation basis, because of this reason. And plus in assembly also, we are trying to rotate the student, although we are taking care of the height, because practically it is not possible that the small child standing this side. So we are also trying to rotate the position in the assembly hall, because we know as a adult all these points are very minor, but it make lot of difference in the child mind, child psychology. So all these things we are taking care, as well as tiffin, sharing of the tiffin. In our school, there is a practice that while break time, lunch break time, class teacher sit with the student. And generally we are not prefer for the sharing of the tiffin, because you know that these days few parents are sending very nutritious food. Some parents are not sending that kind of thing, plus hygiene. So many things are there. So better that you have not to share your tiffin. Whatever tiffin you brought, you have to eat. Because initially we were practicing sharing of the tiffin. And there were so many smart kids who suppose that it is of my favorite food item, finish entire tiffin of that child. And lastly, what happened, nothing is remained with that particular child who brought the means yummy and tasty tiffin. So we stopped that. And whatever thing is there, you have to eat in the presence of teacher, as well as teacher is also not offering her tiffin or his tiffin to the student. And during that time we are taking care that child has to take means complete wash of their hand, cleaning of their bench, etc. Plus take out the tissue paper, towel, whatever they are bringing, and finish their tiffin. So these things we are taking care while sitting assembly, as well as dispersal time in the bus also. We are trying to avoid all these problem or conflict, because somehow somewhere it goes in the mind of a child. And plus we are not allowing a student to bring a good gift in their birthday also, because you know that if we will allow, then what happens, you are bringing, suppose that laptop, you are bringing iPhone, you are bringing mobile to gift everybody. And as a means low income group, I'm unable to afford all these things. So all these things then again start clicking in the mind of a child. So there is no any such kind of thing in our school. We are saying just pencil. It is the common thing that in the primary, because they are using the pencil. So pencil, rubber, eraser, etc. you have to bring. And in the higher, pen and 2 pens only. And to teacher also, only 1 red pen. So all these are in the practice. So there is no question of show off or discrimination. So automatically, if according to me, if all the school will take care of all these small, minute points, then we will make a difference in the psychology as well as upbringing of the kids. Because in the school, you know that different income group people are coming, and as ma'am told that there is means right of education. So we can't stop anybody that I have not to give admission to you because your income is less. So in our school, IS parents, students are also coming, judges are there, plus low income group parents are also coming, those who are peon, etc. So we are trying, as a teacher, we are trying to keep equal uh, environment or standard in our uh, school system, so that a student will not go with the broken heart to his or her house, that today he brought this thing as a birthday gift, he had given this thing to the class teacher, etc. So there is no such kind of thing. So that's why it means these things are very important, and we have to take care as an adult, and as a educationist we have to take care all these points. Might be for few people it is just the small thing, but according to me it is a very important thing. We have to take care of all these things. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you for the wonderful discussion. Borsha, unless you have something to add.
Actually, I wanted to add one more thing, that
Yeah.
how it is important to basically revisit the idea of development what we have. When we call somebody developed, when we call somebody not developed, and when we say this is education, this is not education. I was recently hearing Soni Sori talking about like how, tribal education, and then how this tribals are considered are uncivilized, and whatever do is uncivilized, and there is a push to make tribal students as civilized by forgetting about their roots, where they come from, and basically pushing the idea of mainstream idea of like this whole getting a birthday cake and things like that, and that has never been the culture. So one last point I want to add is like democracy and education is also to understand the culture the student comes from, value that culture, because every culture has its own scientific system, their own value system, and only mainstream cultures cannot decide like who is civilized or non-civilized, right? So we need to look back. We actually need to look back on a lot of things. We need to revisit our ideas of development. We need to revisit what we understand by education, and then only we can actually think of having like a better democracy. Yes, better democracy, I'll say. Yes. Thank you.
Here just I will add one
Yes,
point.
ma'am.
Generally in the Raksha Bandhan day, you know that these days students are also not interested in tying the rakhi of each other, because so many things, you know that their mind is always with the Bollywood and serials and all these things. So we are also not insisting that means classmate has to tie the rakhi of each other. So what is the system we have developed in our school, that the girls who are interested tie the rakhi to our all the peons, all the bus driver, etc. So for that, we are arranging this kind of function in our hall, assembly hall. All the peons, all the drivers are sitting on the stage, and the girls are in the queue, and they are preparing, because generally this kind of thing we are encouraging students to prepare in their of their own only in the school time during the art and craft period, and they are tying to the chacha. And we are not saying means the peon with the name. This is the practice in our school, that they have to say chacha or bhaiya to all the peon, and didi to all the maid or lady peon, etc. So they are tying all this thing to the peon. So there is no such kind of thing that okay, they are from the poor background, so why we have to tie, or we I am rich, so why I have to tie, because this is the system in our school. And automatically what happened, as I told in the beginning also, it is not that one day practice, it should be in our day to day life. So they are not calling any peon by name. It is their habit that they have to say chacha or bhaiya. If it is young, then they are saying bhaiya. If the peon are elderly, then they are saying chacha, and all the boys, they are saying didi. So it is, we as a teacher, as a principal, as a trustee, they are also saying like that, चाचा आप इधर आ जाइए, चाचा ये फाइल लेके जाइए, दीदी आप इधर साफ कर दीजिए. So automatically students are also developing with all these value system, that they have to give respect to all groups, not only to the teacher or to the principal. They have to be respectful with the ground stuff also. So this we are means it is because ma'am has told, so I just added one point over here, how we are celebrating Raksha Bandhan in our school.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you for enriching this discussion so well. Just a very special mention before I hand this back to Achin for the vote of thanks. Uh, we conducted the zero-hour debate sometime back during July, August last year, with the grand finale happening on 15th of August. And I think in every session, one thing that clearly came out is that debate is so important as a democratic value. And having been a debater for most of my life, it is my urge to all educators out there that if your school does not by any chance have a debate club, which I say is a very slim chance, please have one. And that is something that is very important. And the second is, during this discussion that we are having today, in the Q&A box, somebody disagreed to something that was said during the discussion, which I think made this so very democratic an experience for me, who is getting to see all the comments. So for the disagreement, thank you so much. Achin, I think we've had a fantastic discussion. You will have quite a lot to thank for. So I will leave this to you for the vote of thanks. Thank you once again.
A really wonderful discussion, Shubhayu, no doubt about it. And the best part of today's session, I found this not only very insightful, but also the entire deliberation was very frank and honest. A lot of issues that we face were acknowledged upfront. And I always believe that unless we acknowledge a problem, unless we come to terms with it, that yes, there are issues that exist, and that's normal, that happens anywhere in the world. It's so very difficult to solve them. So acknowledging a problem to me is the first step towards a solution, and most important step. Anuradha ma'am, really appreciate the way you deliberated on the entire topic, and very happy to know about the culture of your school. A lot of aspects that you deliberated on, and especially with regard to your school, if I may say, be it the kind of values that you're trying to inculcate in your students, tying Rakhis, and the way they're interacting with the staff of the school. A very important, trying to promote equality, because when we're discussing about democracy, it's really important, and schools, first step for a child, the basics of democracy, a child come to terms with. So the fact that so much of thought has gone into it to ensure that no child feels left behind. Every child feels equal within the school campus. Really, I congratulate you for that. Another very important aspect, ma'am, that I guess you brought forward. Because when you look at democracy being such a vast topic, there are various aspects to it. And one very important aspect that you brought forward is giving children the kind of comfort, ensuring that we enjoy the kind of trust and bond with them, that as far as career choices are concerned, they have their say in it. Of course, as a parent, as an educator, I'm sure all of us would be happy to counsel, to mentor. But it is really important not to impose our choices on them. And I guess that also is a very important way of looking at today's topic when we discuss about democracy. Barsha ma'am, I guess, again, some very important aspects you brought forward, undoubtedly. What I really like is the way you started off, because we were discussing about vocational education, taking a cue from John Dewey's book. So very rightly you mentioned that aspects like farming and pottery, why can't they be career choices? Why can't, if someone is learning pottery or farming, that also is education, no doubt about it. And I guess that's exactly how, as a society, we need to look at it. ensuring that we encourage craftsmen, ensuring that we encourage each and every vocation. Because as a society, we can thrive only when we have stakeholders who are in divergent traits. And all of them are equally important. Another thing which I really like is, and I'm sure members of our esteemed audience also, I thank you for sharing your experience, real life experience in rural areas, in heartland, in tribal areas, a lot of issues that you brought forward. Indeed, are serious issues that we as members of civil society, we all of us, I believe, have a responsibility of contributing in our own little humble way towards making things better. And it's not only about having drawing room conversations, but indeed ensuring that in our own little world, we take steps to make things better. So I guess we really had a great session, and I thank esteemed members of the audience for their time and for their support as always, which is really made Together for Education webinar the largest such forum of esteemed educators in India. We look forward to your support in the days to come as well. Thank you, take care, and goodbye.
Thank you.